The only thing that's better than destroying everything with a massive flaming sword is knowing that the giant flaming sword also causes massive explosions every time it connects. Oh yes. Hello, my fellow lamp bearers. How fares you this fine day? I want to share with you some Inferno delights, as it is what my heart has been drawn to, starting as a pirate cultist and going all in on that sweet fiery magic and, well, beautiful burning destruction. The early game can feel quite brutal, with a lack of new Inferno spells and not really a great amount of Inferno weapons, but I want to tell you, hold strong, because around a third of the way through, it gets good. It gets real good, as you are seeing. So, what are we actually working with today? What build are we going over? Well, it's fairly simple. It's taking what I consider to be the best Inferno weapon in the entire game and very elegantly min-maxing it so you can get it online as early as possible and start cruising through everything you have left. And as you're seeing against our target dummy boss here, it really does pack a punch. This isn't even at the halfway point of the game yet on this character, and this character is certainly not supposed to be doing this boss yet, but it's making him absolutely look like a tutorial boss, and that is so wonderful. The chain lockdown stagger, both from the heavy hits and the follow-up explosions, makes most encounters an absolute doddle. It's a little bit of a cheat code, and the explosions that come out of the swings are incredible for cleaving down groups of enemies and throwing them all around the place and generally just making everything very safe on top of the big, wide, massive damaging arcs that this provides. So, without further ado then, let's actually talk about this beautiful weapon. This is the Fallen Lord's Blade, and it really is mighty. So what you are working with when it comes to this is the following. You get a massively pure Inferno scaling weapon. It starts at C and rapidly grows to A and beyond, does a healthy mix of both physical and fire damage, and like a lot of fire damage, but more than anything, it has that 300 ignite. And ignite is what is causing those explosions. It is a status, like fire, like bleed, like poison, that when you build up enough of it on an enemy, they go boom. And that boom damages them and everyone around them. It's a good pop of damage, it's a good size AoE, and it's got some really good stagger damage to it. And 300 is a colossal amount. It makes sense because it's a colossal sword, but this is enough that in one or at most two swings, you will trigger the explosion against anything. So it essentially just happens constantly, which I feel like the game really isn't balanced for, because it's kind of silly how genuinely it makes everything a breeze to just mow through. It requires 30 Inferno to put on, and that's really nice because it's just pure Inferno. There's no like strength requirement, despite it being a big old sword, which means you can just stick to your pure potent scaling stat, which gets you to more damage faster because you don't have to waste levels on anything other than one damaging stat, and then a bit of vitality and a little bit of endurance. We'll go over levels more specifically later, but it really is the perfect blade for an Inferno pure experience. It really lets you be dominant in melee while having your backup arsenal of spells to work with. In any case, the moveset then is rather fantastic. One-handed, you've got the big, long-reaching, much quicker sweeps, which is really nice. You've got the heavy, which is a nice, long-reaching poke. You've got the multi-hit, which is just a quick slap down. And then when you go to your two-handed, you just have these nice, big, heavy sweeps. And then you see that little uppercut there on the third hit. This will actually hit enemies behind you as well when it slaps the floor behind you, which is a really nice little bit of utility. And then this big heavy will hit front and back, and it will stagger essentially everything. And then your multi here is a nice big spin smash, though that's probably one of the weaker moves. There's a lot of build up and you're quite vulnerable. But essentially, if you are hitting something with this, the one thing it probably is not ever going to do is strike you back until you run out of stamina, which is amazing, and it makes stamina quite important for the wielding of this blade. Another thing to mention with this is, due to just how hard it hits, your wither health recovery is absurd. With just one hit, look at that, we're back up to essentially full health. It lets you play so unbelievably aggressively, and that is a real advantage. And it also has a really decent amount of block on it, so we can actually stand there and tank up a little bit if we ever need to. And then again, we just restore so much health that it's completely fine. And you see there the explosion. I would have got hit had the explosion not happened and staggered the Wraith and cancelled his attack. And that's a real good way to mitigate the sometimes disadvantage of having such a big, slow swing. Bonk! I love Ow! So, where do you actually get the Fallen Lord's Sword? Well, it's decently early, which is what makes this especially so good. It is in Lower Calrath, and you want to follow my steps thusly to grab it for yourself. Go to Vestige of Lydia the Numb Witch, which is one hell of a title. Is that really? She's most known for being numb, okay. And then head left. Now, my ladder is down here, is it's a shortcut that you will get, but don't worry if you don't have it yet. Stay with me. At the top of here, you'll reach a door that you can Umbral Lantern through. Now, in this room, the entrance to it is the guaranteed mandatory path you have to take through the level. It is impossible for you to miss this unless you just stop playing the game forever. You'll know it when you see this flaming skeleton dude and then walk into this room. Now, you can go through the door to get the shortcut yourself, but what you want to do then is come back and go up this ladder. At the top of this ladder, you want to look around till you see a enemy crouched down next to a ledge, run up and of course kick him off. He's already been pre-kicked here for me. Then turn left and continue round the outside of the building and across a suspended bridge. Once we get to the side of that suspended bridge, we want to simply walk down a floor, and near a big bell that is smashed into the ground, you will see an impaled burning body, and we're going to do him the favor of relieving the sword that is his, let's say, worry, and that sword just happens to be the Fallen Lord's one. It's actually surprisingly missable. I went through this building like a couple of times on my first playthrough and actually never picked it up until I went back through a few areas to thoroughly explore them to see if I had actually missed anything, and I'm glad that I did. You can also get here from below if you umbral into this burning, now not burning, building and climb up the ladder. In any case, with it achieved, you want to upgrade it as much as possible, at least +5 at this stage of the game, and that will see the scaling skyrocket. So with that in mind then, what are we accompanying it with? Well, you want your Inferno Catalyst, of course, because we are an Inferno build, and want to take advantage of our spells on top of our sword, and Searing Accusation is the best you're going to get hold of at this stage of the the game when you first get this weapon. This is from the Tortured Prisoner questline, the Inferno teacher that will have a lot for you over the course of the game. We have a video up on the channel on how to actually start their questline, free them from their prison, and so on and so forth, but eventually she will actually return this to you, and that's all well and good. Once you beat the Remembrance boss of Lower Calrath, you do want to go back to her and give her the eyeball that is one of the drops, and that will unlock a couple brand new Inferno spells, Inferno sorceries for you to have a go with. One of which being Seismic Slam, which is absolutely wonderful. It's a big, well, Seismic Slam that sends a shockwave of fire forward. It's got incredible stagger, and it does decent damage too. It's not completely required to play with this blade, of course, but it is one that I would heartily recommend. Your usual little dink that you start with, it's just too useful having this ranged poke. And then Magma Surge, this is from the Remembrance boss of Lower Calrath. I won't show you it specifically, just in case you've not actually done it and don't want spoilers, but I would definitely recommend trading the Umbral Scourings for it as soon as you can, as it's also a very useful ability. It puts a little magma plume under your target, explodes for a pop of damage, and then this pool stays for ages, burning them over and over and over again, and it works wonders. The one Inferno that you do need to get, or at least I heartily recommend, is Adia's Rage. This gives you a big damage bump, a big one. It's a % scaling one, so when it's applied to a weapon that's doing this much damage, it's really felt, and it makes your already colossal hits even colossally hittier. And you get this from the first time that you Damarose the Marked just before the Mistress of the Hounds boss fight, so make sure to buy it. If you didn't do it and she moved on, you will keep bumping into her and get another opportunity to actually get it. Armor-wise then, you want to just put on as heavier armor as you can actually handle to get as much defense in the defenses that matter to you. Physical, obviously the generally best, but other than that, I mean, just go fashion crazy, really. And actually, we should talk about weight. This sword is heavy, 42.3. That is ridiculous. Compare that to the sword that I would recommend that you use until you get this. I have respect, so I can't use it anymore, but Bloodlust here is excellent. The bleed is nice, the damage is good, the Inferno scaling is decent enough, and this just does a really nice job of getting you to Fallen Lords, but then do this full switch. In any case, this is only weighing 8 compared to 42. Look at my encumbrance. If I take this off, it's essentially the entirety of what's filling that sweet spot middle bar for me. That is to say then, if you want to use this with any kind of decent defense armor and still have your fast roll as early as when you can first get it before you have enough spare levels to pump endurance, if that's what you're into, well then I would recommend the first of the two rings that is going into this, the Ring of Bones. This is a huge increase to your equip load. If I take this off, yeah, we immediately go into heavy rolling, but with it on, we are comfortable, and it makes a big difference because having some decent actual armor on really does help in Lords of the Fallen. This then is from the vestige of Katrin in the kind of miny tunnels area. From here, you walk out into this flooded room, and all you do is whack the lever over, and it will cause the water to drain. Now that the water's drained, a previously floating body will be on the floor, so you can just hop down and grab the ring from it, and it is as easy as that. The other ring then that I would recommend is the Mine Owner's Ring. This one you probably definitely have. It's essentially in the tutorial level at the very start, and it just gives you more stamina and stamina regen. This sword absolutely devours your stamina, and given that as long as you're swinging, you're basically unkillable because the enemy can't do anything, you want to be swinging as much as possible, and this really helps take the edge off, especially early when you don't have a crazy amount of levels to work with. Finally, for your amulet, I would go with the Warrior's Claw. You find this just to the left of where you unlock the blacksmith from her cage at the very start of the game, just before the Hound Mistress boss fight, and it is a decent increase, both offensively and defensively, but you can in truth just use whatever amulet you feel like here. There's nothing that's super key until ultra late game, but by that point you'll have a much better idea of things in any case. This all said, you will eventually reach a point where you don't need to worry about the rings helping your equip load and your stamina when you do get these spare points to go into endurance. So before we address what to do then, let's actually talk levels. So here I am then at level 52, which isn't super high, it's still fairly early on, and your goal is to power Inferno to 30, which is only 12 levels if you started as Pirate Cultist, and then you can actually wield the thing. After that, you do want a good chunk of vitality, as it is important having an actual health pool to work with, and then you are kind of done. Every level past that, you just want to put in a healthy mix of endurance, vitality, and Inferno, in sort of a 1-1-3 ratio. 1 endurance, 1 vitality, 3 Inferno, 1 endurance, 1 vitality, 3 Inferno, and that's all you need stats-wise. Because the sword only needs Inferno, we get to ignore strength and agility, we don't need radiance, so we can really easily just focus on the 3 big impactful stats that matter, and it lets this build specialize and get really powerful really quickly. And because this sword is just so naturally powerful, along with the ignite explosions, even against fire-resistant enemies, it still kinda crushes them, which is so awesome to be able to do, as that can wall you quite a lot on an Inferno build, as there is a lot of fire-based enemies around the place. So when it comes to ideal rings to look out for as you journey through Axiom, there is a couple main contenders. The Ada Kamar ring, which just gives you a nice damage boost while you are two-handing a weapon, that is solid. And then you also want the Wildfire ring, which will make your ignite explosions also just guaranteed burn them, so you get that really potent damage over time, and it is a beautiful synergy. And talking of beautiful synergies, eventually, once you reach more towards endgame, you will get the spell Inferno Weapon, which will coat this blade in fire, and then that will really skyrocket your output even more, and is definitively worth investing in once it's available. But I cannot stress enough how late it is. It's almost a little bit weird that it is as late as it is, and it's a little bit anticlimactic, but definitely do use it once you get there. Other than that then, there's not much else to say. It really is just the peak of Inferno weaponry that lets you be so dangerous up close and absolutely just dominate with these meaty swings. The actual Inferno spells that you also have in your pocket that are also really powerful almost feel superfluous, and that's kind of a good position to be in, because you can really mix and match any that you like the look of and just blast away with them, knowing you can always fall back on this silly melee damage output and stagger locking that you've got going on with these consistent explosion swings. I hope you found this eye-opening and definitely exciting if you didn't know about or have found this yet, and I wish you luck in getting it, using it, and having a literal blast through the rest of Lords of the Fallen. Let me know if you'd like further builds in the future. A more actual Inferno spell, literally focused one, is one I've got my eye on and would love to bring you. But other than that, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.